Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mendel Manifesto podcast. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and are going to have a wonderful New Year. So, because it has been a long time since the last episode went up, I've got a lot to cover in this episode. So, let's get started. So, to begin, I'm just going to talk about basketball. So, since I've last recorded, Kimber Walker had back to back games where he scored 103 points combined, which is incredible just because he's not really talked about in the media, but he is one of these guys that somehow comes up as one of the best in that like second tier where you have, LeBron, KD, Steph, Harden, Westbrook, and then that like second tier of players, Walker, Kyrie, just players like that. And so since the last episode we had, James Harden has had multiple 50-point games. Not really surprising that he's able to do this just because, he was the MVP last year and all of this. So the next is Kevin Durant had 51 points against Toronto. And yeah, everyone talks about how Toronto chokes in the postseason, whatever. But this isn't really that Toronto, since you do have Kawhi now. Kyle Lowry's playing incredible. It's just they're the favorite in the East now, and the fact that Kevin Durant did that. But it also leads into that the Warriors really have not been living up to expectation. Clay hasn't been shooting well. Of course, DeMarcus Cousins still isn't there. Steph's been injured a lot, but we'll have to see what happens. So another thing that happened against the Raptors, I'm not trying to hate on them right now, but it just happened that this happened. Nikola Jokic, they throw in the ball to him. He has this incredible shot, and it doesn't count because the foul gets called before he goes into the shooting motion. It was one of the best shots I think I've seen in a long time. It just looked like he tried going in the motion. It didn't even look like he wanted to shoot the ball, but scored. It looked incredible. So now I'm gonna transition into the college basketball world. And first, I think a guy that is not talked about at all. I think I saw him once on ESPN, and that's because of a top 10 play. Mike Daum from South Dakota State. He's been averaging 26 points per game, and you might say, oh, well, he's not at a Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, whatever. So those points, that doesn't really matter how he's playing, but I'd say he's a dark horse. Just be on the lookout for him. So, another thing I want to mention was how Zion Williamson has this incredible block where he hits his head on the backboard, and ESPN, it's the number one play on their top 10 for a good 2 days. But what gets overlooked is that not the same play, but number 9 on the top 10 play was a guy from Murray State, just made the same block, hit his head on the backboard, got up higher than Zion, but still kind of being disrespected. Either that or Zion was put on a pedestal. Either way, it's the same thing. Both of them should have been a top 3 top play, or both of them should have been a bottom 3 top play. Either way you look at it. So another thing that happened is that I was watching a Northern Illinois game, which I would like to talk about their court in a later episode, but just for this episode, their logo is so big on the court that it gives a new meaning to shooting from the logo, where you used to shoot from the logo, and that was incredible. But now it's pretty much their logo just reaches the 3-point line. So it's just different. So now I'm just going to talk about some games, some surprises from the college basketball season so far. So to start the season, everyone knows the Duke-Kentucky game where the three freshmen had 60-plus points and just they destroyed Kentucky. That was a wonderful game to watch. Just if you like basketball, that was a wonderful game to watch. Duke, Indiana. Duke just showed again how dominant they were, even though they were playing a good Indiana team with a top 5 prospect in Romeo Langford. Duke Gonzaga was another really good game, and I think that was for the Maui Invitational. But Gonzaga did come out on top. Everyone thought that Duke was going to be this unstoppable force where they never lost a game. They were going to be the first 40-0 men's team. But Gonzaga had different plans, and Gonzaga and Kansas, I think, are the only two teams that can truly beat Duke when Duke plays their best. Another game was Gonzaga UNC. That was just like a really good game. I wouldn't say it had it didn't have that wow factor. Well, besides the teams being really like ranked, but it didn't have that one moment. It was just a really good game overall. And UNC did win by 12, I think it was. But again, it was just a good game. Gonzaga, this is the next game. Gonzaga did lose to Tennessee as their first game as the number 1 overall seed, or seed, the ranking, whatever. And so Tennessee just kind of shocked everyone because everyone thought Duke was that wonderful team no one was ever going to beat. But then you have Gonzaga beat them. Okay, so now Gonzaga. Gonzaga has to be the best team in the country. They just beat Cam Reddish and Zion and Mike Krzyzewski and Duke, and then they go and lose. There's a reason that the home team wins 70+% of games. Is just how it is. But yeah, let's go back and on opening day, Michigan State versus Kansas. Another wonderful game to watch. Went down to the wire. Kansas again was supposed to be one of these superpowers where you have 3 All-Americans come. You have or All-American in high school, and then you have an All-American transfer from Memphis, and it was just going to be this other unstoppable team. They did win, but they did show how vulnerable they could be. So we are going to stay on the topic of Kansas and their Kansas-Villanova game. Again, a good game that went down to the wire. But Villanova had just been on a losing streak until their their in-season tournament, I think is the best way to describe it, where under Jay Wright, they have never lost an in-season tournament. But yeah, Villanova just had a 3-4 game losing streak, one of those two, and they actually were unranked after that or before that in-season tournament. So now a team that I wasn't really expecting, I've only heard their name a few times, is Furman. They were one of the teams that beat Villanova on Villanova's losing streak, and they actually were ranked for the first time in program history. And so the last game I'm going to talk about, the last full game I'm going to talk about is the Butler-Indiana game here in downtown Indianapolis. I do think Indiana is a really good basketball team, even though I may not have made it seem that way earlier. But I do think Indiana got away with winning that game. The guy for Indiana clearly steps out of bounds, at least 1 or 2 feet out of bounds. Still gets the assist. I don't know what the official was looking at, but that completely changed how Butler attacked the rim on their next possession instead of just holding it for the last shot. Because at that point, it was tied 66-66. Indiana scores, they go up 68-66, and then Butler has to make sure they get a shot off quick enough to ensure that they, can get the rebound. So to wrap up the basketball section, I'm just going to say that the ACC Big Ten Challenge, again, wonderful. I loved watching all the games, especially when Florida State beat Purdue. just so I can talk some trash against my friends that go to Purdue. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is football. So in college football, we had the rivalry games, we had the Army-Navy games, we had the conference championships. First and foremost, Kyler Murray, congratulations for winning the Heisman. He was definitely the guy I thought that deserved to win, and so it was good to see him win. I'm recording this currently on December 28th, so tomorrow on the 29th, he is playing Alabama in one half of the semifinals, while Clemson, who as of yesterday, it was officially announced that 3 players were suspended for their semifinal against Notre Dame. So be interesting to see how that impacts their game. They were 13-point favorites, and to see what is going to happen will be interesting. So because it has been a long time, I'm going to run through some rivalry week games and just talk about what I saw, how I thought it happened, just stuff like that. So the first is the Texas A&M and LSU 7 overtime game. That was just really interesting to watch. I think they said that A&M had a 0.02% chance of winning on their final play of the game. Got some penalty calls for them. My uncle actually did attend this game, and he said that just the atmosphere of it was insane. The Apple Cup, Washington State, it was a wonderful game to watch. It wasn't no Boise State, but because of the snow, you couldn't see the turf, so either way. Next is Ohio State completely blew out Michigan. I did not see this coming at all. 62-39. The Buckeyes deserved their chance at the Big Ten championship after that. Michigan, I honestly thought was going to win for the first time over Ohio State in the Jim Harbaugh era, but it did not happen. So this next one hurts me a lot. Florida defeated Florida State, and because of this, Florida State, for the first time in 41 years, will not have a winning season, and the first time in 37 years will not be at a bowl game. Those are the 2 longest streaks. Or should I say those were the 2 longest active streaks. So in the USF game, sadly Mackenzie Milton, the quarterback for UCF, was injured, but they did finish the season undefeated, and I'd love to see them beat LSU to finish a second straight season undefeated. As crazy as this may sound, I think that if Mackenzie Milton was healthy, that he would, but the committee would have put him and UCF into the playoff over Oklahoma, or even over Notre Dame. That would have been incredible or crazy to see. I don't think Notre Dame would have been kicked out unless UCF had their quarterback. So one more time on the college football playoff. I don't think anyone can really complain about how the 4 teams were decided. Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame all went undefeated. They kind of deserve their spot. Oklahoma, the only loss they had was 3 points to Texas, and they beat Texas for the Big 12 championship. I don't think you can really complain about that. I know Ohio State fans are not going to like being the 6th seed, but they did lose to Purdue by 29, and that's just an ugly loss that they could not redeem. So the last college football I'm going to talk of today is the Army-Navy game. It's always a wonderful game to see the tradition and everything. Army did win over Navy. It was a really good, it's a really good game just to watch, even if you didn't care about the tradition, the honor, and everything. It was just overall a really good game to end the college football season. And so now that I've done talking about the college football season, I'm going to talk more about what's happened in the NFL since my last episode. So the main point I'm going to talk about the NFL today is the My Cause, My Cleats campaign. I do think it is a wonderful promotion. It lets the players, get custom painted, custom designed cleats and wear them for a charity. The cleats will be auctioned, and the money will go to the charity that is on the cleats or of the player, coach, commentator, whatever their choice. So another a reason this doesn't really happen a lot is the NFL has strict rules on what can be the cleats or on the cleats or the design of the cleats for the players. So this lets not only the players to express themselves but also give back to a really good cause. So for this episode, I'm just going to talk about the ones that I thought were really well designed, or the ones I would personally like to bid on, even though I don't have the money for it. So some of the ones I did think that looked great were AJ Bouyer's cleats for the American Cancer Society. These cleats just kind of have a gradient fill where it just transitions between multiple colors, and I just think it looks really good. So the next one is Kyle Rudolph for benefiting the Starkey Hearing Foundation. I think I'm saying that right. But again, like, these cleats just look incredible. Shane Vereen's Shane Vereen's cleats for the Children's Hospital of LA. Again, like, these, it's incredible to see the designs that can easily just come out on these cleats. Jack Doyle, this one's kind of hits close to home. His cleats are for the benefit of the Riley Children's Hospital. Von Miller's, his Von's Vision cleats, they were really cool. Von Miller's cleats were painted, so they had that 3D look to them. And his is for Von's Vision, a charity or a foundation he created to help with eyeglass wear and vision problems and stuff like that for kids. And the last one I would love to have, it's from the GOAT. You already know, Peyton Manning's cleats that he had custom designed with the Walter Payton Award on them. They go to benefit the Peyton Manning Children's Hospital here in Indianapolis. So if you want to go and get these cleats or just bid to help these charities, you can go to nflauction.nfl.com or just go to the link in the description. So some other news in the NFL. Phillip Rivers and Marcus Mariota on their Sunday and Monday games, respectively, they set the all-time completion percentage records, first and second, again, respectively. Phillip Rivers Marcus Mariota would have set that the record had Phillip Rivers not done better the night before. And so, also, the last month, since my episode, you can't mention the NFL without mentioning Derrick Henry. He has been on a tear lately. He had that incredible run where everyone just wanted to talk about Marcus Mariota's block, but he hit the defender helmet to helmet, so it should have been illegal. I'm not going to talk about that. I just did. But he also had that 99-yard run for a touchdown. He's just been going off. His fantasy points have been going crazy lately. And speaking of fantasy, your boy just won his fantasy league. Me and my homies, great name. Picking up Patrick Mahomes after the first week was an incredible game changer. I honestly could not have won fantasy without him. I did not have a good quarterback whatsoever. I'm not going to drop his name, Carson Wentz. And it was not that I don't like Carson Wentz. He just was not putting up the points I needed to win. But back to the NFL now. The Colts-Jaguars was one of the worst games I think I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't like a bad game. There was that game a few years ago where the Steelers, I think it was like 12-9, and the field was nothing but mud. This game, the Colts-Jaguars game, was 6-0, and it wasn't even bad weather. It was just a horrible game. And it wasn't as if the defense was just dominant. Neither team was good. And it was one of the worst games I've ever seen. And again, I want to say that, like, I no disrespect to either team or the players, the personnel. It was just a horrible game as not neutral. I like the Colts, but as a fan, just to watch a game, that is not one of the ones that will ever be talked about. So, another game, the Chiefs versus Chargers on December 13th. This game was horrible at the end. And it's not, again, like, the players just take advantage. Like Harden, he just takes advantage of what the officials give him. The Chargers had 2 offensive pass interferences that were either not called or called on the defense, which completely just helped the Chargers win that game. Even though the Chargers haven't won, like, that makes the Chiefs have to work so hard on week 17 just to make sure they get their the first round bye, home field advantage, all that stuff. So now I'm going to transition from American football to international football. So even though this is still in America, NCAA national championships for soccer. Congratulations to, first and foremost, the Florida State women's soccer team. The Seminoles won what was a really good game for the national championship. And congratulations to the men's Terrapins from Maryland, University of Maryland, for winning the men's soccer national championships. Now I'm going to go to the MLS season has concluded, and the Atlanta United did win the MLS Cup against Portland Timbers. The Five Stripes are only in their second season as a franchise, and both the years have just been incredible. But this year was the year of Joseph Martinez. This man won the MLS Golden Boot, which is the most goals in a season, while setting the record which is for most goals in a season, which is 28. He added 3 in the playoffs. He was an all-star. He won the All-Star Game MVP. He won the MLS Landon Donovan MVP award. He won the MLS Cup. He won the MLS Cup MVP. Like, there's not a much better year you can have just individually on the field. You can always win awards that are voted on, but on the field he proved that he deserved all of these accolades, and it was just a year that any athlete would want to have. So now from U.S. to finally getting to international. First and foremost, I said that way too much. Congratulations to Luka Modric. He won the Ballon d'Or, which is awarded to who is voted as the best soccer player in the world every year. He definitely had the incredible year that could only be wrapped up with the Golden Ball as a bow. He won the UEFA Champions League, runner-up in the World Cup. He won the Golden Ball for the World Cup, which just means he was the best player in the tournament. He has definitely been one of the better players in the world, but usually just gets put in the shadow of flashy players, and I'm glad he was finally recognized for his talent. So now we are in the home stretch. A lot of miscellaneous stuff going on right here. So congratulations, Stanford University Cardinal, for winning the NCAA National Championship in women's volleyball. Some other key notes. The Calgary Hitmen donated almost 30,000 stuffed animals from their teddy bear toss game, which is just when the home team scores, everyone throws a teddy bear onto the hockey rink. And this was the record until the Hershey Bears had their teddy bear toss game, and they donated over 34,000 stuffed animals for local hospitals and other charities. And to stay with hockey, the NHL did name the next city that it will be expanding to. And finally, Seattle has another team to support. Starting in the 2021-2022 season, Seattle will have a professional hockey team. So far, Bryce Harper still has not signed with any teams. That's not really surprising to me, just because he's going to be offered as much money as he can. And so one trade that I did like is that Paul Goldschmidt is now going to the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm a Cardinals fan. It's always great to add another good player to your roster. A trade that I did not see happening at all was Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp to the Cincinnati Reds for a lot of just prospects. The Reds also got money out of that. So something I loved hearing was that Drew Brees or someone was going to auction off John Wooden Purdue jersey, and Drew Brees anonymously purchased the jersey for $264,000 from the private collector, and then he donated it back to Purdue, his alma mater, just so they can now have it on display. I just think that's a wonderful story that won't really get talked about much. And so, again, I don't know why this keeps happening, but there were deaths or like influential people that have passed away since my last episode. So first would be I want to pay respect to Lee Leonard. A lot of people don't know him. I didn't really know who he was, but he was the first host and the first voice of ESPN. That's important to me. Of course I don't know who he was or anything, but I don't think my TV ever changes off of ESPN. So in a way, he's indirectly had a big influence in my life. Another person is Penny Marshall. She was one of, if not the only director of A League of Their Own. That's a wonderful game, or not wonderful game, a wonderful movie about like the baseball landscape of America during World War II. And then finally, this last one. So I just wanted to pay respect for those two influential people in the world. So finally, the United States lost a wonderful patriot, but more importantly, a wonderful man. George H.W. Bush passed away since my last recording. For those of you that may not know, he was the 41st president of the United States. He had a big impact on this country. It didn't seem like there was much in this world that he did not do. And it's just incredible to see that even when this world's so divided, how many people on both sides of the aisle were able to look up to him and just simply loved him. So just before I wrap up here, just want to tell you guys, tweet at my account, my Twitter account, comment on the video, just to let me know what you guys want to hear about, some topics you guys would like to know more about, just so I can get it all ready. So this has been another chapter of the Mendel Manifesto. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And until next time, thank you for listening.